Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the press availability regarding NPRA and Willow and the decision that's set to come before us that'll impact the generations to come from the villages that I represent, at least. Firstly, I'll say my name is Josiah Putkeduk. I serve as a District 40 state representative in the Alaska legislature, nonpartisan member, going on my second term. I'm also joined behind me by other members of the 33rd legislature. We've got Senator Hoffman, Senator Olson, Senator Shower, a couple of representatives, Representative Edgman, Representative Foster, Representative McCormick. And the purpose for our visit here is to deliver the message as far as the opinion of the state of Alaska when it comes to production of NPRA in general, but specifically the Willow Development Project. We received unanimous support from both bodies of the legislature on a resolution that spoke to the reasons that we need to see this investment in our community and in our state. Broadly speaking, we talk about what it means to provide for our communities and live a sustainable lifestyle, both culturally and importantly economically. And to the economics of the Willow Project, it represents an opportunity really of a lifetime for the citizens of the state of Alaska and more directly the citizens of the North Slope. Some of those numbers over the course of the project, 30-year life of the project, represent about $3.7 billion in NPRA grant mitigation funds. And those directly affect the communities within the National Petroleum Reserve Alaska, along with a few of the villages above the North Slope. And those grants are used for anywhere from school playgrounds to salaries for city managers in villages that don't have an economic base, to water and sewer infrastructure, power generation, and roads, building of them and maintaining them. Another aspect of the Willow Development Project is the ad valorem tax that the North Slope Borough levies on property values in the North Slope, and that represents about $1.3 billion over the life of the project. Why that's meaningful is because the North Slope Borough, unlike many other organized municipalities or governments really across the nation, do a number of things that are unique. One of the things that they do is fund the Department of Wildlife that does baseline studies that help shore up our quotas and our hunting management of marine mammals, specifically bowhead whaling. I don't think any other municipality participates at that level to making sure that our people have the subsistence opportunities that we've long lived and want to continue to long into the future. Another aspect that the borough facilitates, as I mentioned earlier, is the water wastewater treatment facilities, the ability for us to have a flush toilet in all of our communities. That's what something like the Willow Project and the revenues generated from it will go toward. And that's speaking on a specific level to the North Slope and its affected communities. On a more broad level, going up to the state of Alaska, we have, like many other places, we have budgetary constraints and challenges in providing the core services that the legislature, in hand with the governor, put forth on behalf of the residents. And you can name any project or any program that affects every corner of the state, and that's funded through our state legislature and our state budget. And I guess the reason I say that is over the life of Willow, we expect to see in the vicinity of $5.5 billion. And I don't want to make it sound like the dollar aspect is the sole reason for Willow. And I want to make sure it's highlighted to folks listening and understanding that those dollar figures directly translate into rural Alaska lifestyle. And the degree that we can continue to live in rural Alaska where it's expensive, and the degree in which we can continue to keep our culture alive whether we're talking the ability to gas up your boat to go fishing, the ability to gas up your boat to go whaling, the ability to go gas up your boat and catch your seals and bearded seals that we love to eat, or you talk about the land aspect and the terrestrial game that we all rely on, are all affected directly by the strength of the economy of the state of Alaska. Just for perspective, the North Slope Borough, which is about half of my district, is approximately 56.5 million acres of land. The NPRA, which was asked to be pursued commercially in 1976 by Congress, represents just under half of that, 23 million acres. And the project that we're specifically talking about, Willow, represents 556 acres of the 56.5 million acres in the North Slope. And so, to put that into perspective of the 23 million acres of NPRA, we're asking to have the opportunity to pursue 0.002% of NPRA. There's a whole list of reasons why this is good for the state, but I wanted to highlight more so the reasons why it's good for the local people and the people in rural Alaska. And you know, we long time boast the most stringent oil and gas and even mining measures of protection towards not only the environment, the ecology as a whole, but one thing that I think we do relatively well is recognize that when we talk about environmental justice and protecting the environment, that us Alaska Natives, we're part of that environment. We always have been and we always will be. And that's why it's important to underscore the opportunities for a better quality of life, staying away from the third world conditions that the generation immediately before me grew up in. And so those are some of the reasons that we're asking the President, his cabinet, all of those involved in the decision-making process to keep that in mind, because if there's any a good highlight of environmental, social governance, this Willow project represents that. So with that, I know other folks are going to speak to the job aspect, the barrel per day production opportunity that this project presents. I wanted to, I guess, formally, hand deliver the resolution that I spoke to our senators. Printer ran out of ink. I only have 2, so whoever the third one is, Mary, it's in the mail. So, passed unanimously by the legislature, urging support of the Willow Development Project.
All Alaskans.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
With that, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce and give the floor to our senior senator, Lisa Murkowski.
Representative Pekatak, thank you. Thank you for your leadership in our state, and thank you for articulating so well why Willow is a priority for Alaska. The Alaskans that you see behind me, you have a unified and united congressional delegation, a bipartisan delegation standing before you 100% in support of Willow. Our governor and our state administration in support of Willow. These resolutions coming from the State House and the State Senate unanimously support the Willow project. We have behind us some of our state's true Native leaders from the very beginning, individuals who have walked the halls of Congress as they have worked to outline legislation that has really made Alaska who we are, and Alaska Native leadership governance what it is today. We have whaling captains, we have young people, we have elders, we have unions, labor behind us, standing with us in agreement. Why are we all here in support of the Willow Development Project? What is it all about? It can be summed up in one word. It is about security. It is energy security, yes, because we are developing a resource that not only this country needs, but certainly the world still needs it. As we move to transition from petroleum, we know we will need it in the years going ahead. So why we are not accessing from a resource where we know our environmental track record is second to none, where we are not a country like some of these others that have human rights issues, have environmental issues. We're basically exporting our environmental issues when we ask Venezuela to ship it into us, when we ask places in the Amazon to take down more trees so that we can have your oil, when we can be producing in this country, in our state, with the permission of those who live there. So it is absolutely energy security. But it is also economic security, as you've just heard Representative Pakotak say, what it means to them to have an economy in their region, resources that can come to them so that they can take care of themselves. This is about empowerment for Alaska Native people. They're not asking for the handout. They're saying, allow us to be participants in our own economy where we live and work and raise our families and have for thousands of years. So this is economic security for them, but it's economic security for the state of Alaska as well. The state of Alaska needs our economy, an economic boost to our economy. We have a pipeline that is yet half full. It is an artery, it is a lifeline waiting to be filled. Not only to support Alaskans, but to support everyone in this country and our friends and allies as well. So it is about economic security in addition to energy security, and it is absolutely about national security. We just came, many of us came from a conference, a 2-day symposium put on by the Alaska Federation of Natives. We have 4 stars, we have 3 stars, we have retired generals, and what they're saying, what they're reaffirming, is that when the United States produces their own resources, we are strong, we are less vulnerable, we can be there for our allies and our partners. It's about national security as well as anything. So we are here today, literally days ahead of a decision by this administration. They seem to be agonizing over whether or not they should allow for a reapproval of the Willow project. This is a reapproval. There is nothing to agonize here. This is about security for America, security for Alaskans. Get off the dime, administration. Approve the Willow project. I now turn to my friend and colleague, Senator Sullivan, for his comments.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is a great group of Alaskans, and I am so honored that they're all here. Some legends, incredible, incredible Alaskans. And this is what this press conference is all about. The main purpose here is hear our voices. Hear our voices. These are Alaskans who flew 4,000, 5,000 miles to Washington, D.C. to hear our voices. Some have tried for 12 months to try to get one meeting with the Secretary of Interior. She won't meet with them, so we're going to make some noise here to hear our voices. And as Senator Murkowski said, I am so honored that we got this joint bipartisan resolution from the Alaska legislature. Every elected leader in our state has signed on to this. Democrat, Republican, Independent. Many of them are here. This is why it's so important to us. Hear our voices, national media. Hear our voices, Mr. President. Hear our voices, Secretary Holland. And Senator Murkowski said it. This is a no-brainer on so many fronts. National security. My goodness. Read the paper. We have challenges all over the world. One of our strongest instruments of American power is American energy. And yet this administration has gone out of their way to shut down American energy, make it harder to produce, harder to move, harder to finance. And when the resulting implication of those policies is higher energy prices on working families, they go to Saudi Arabia on bended knee to beg them for oil. They go to Venezuela and say we're going to lift sanctions on Maduro, a terrorist, so he can produce more oil. Mr. President, don't beg Saudi Arabia, don't beg Venezuela, get it from Alaska. Get it from Alaska. This is a no-brainer on the environment. The highest environmental standards in the world are in Alaska. This project has the highest standards of any major energy project on the planet Earth. Read the EIS. The EIS says if you get oil from Saudi Arabia or Venezuela and not Alaska, you're going to crank up global emissions. That's the Biden administration's EIS. No-brainer on the environment. And then the final issue is workers. We have some of the great American unions represented here. Every building trade in the country has made this their top priority. Why? 2,500 jobs to build it. And we can start building tomorrow. Again, Mr. President, if you're for the working men and women of this country, this is a no-brainer. A no-brainer. Again, we are so honored by all the great support here, but the union support has been incredible. Every labor union leader in the building trades has written directly or tried to talk directly to the President of the United States saying, Mr. President, please, let us produce American oil with American workers. We need it. We're going to need it. Final issue. This was approved by the Biden administration with 5 pads. I'm sorry, the Trump administration with 5 pads. The Biden administration came and said, our scientists, our career people are approving it with 3 pads. The White House is now looking to maybe reduce it to 2. We have all said if you do that, you're going to kill it. You're going to kill it. And that would just be an exercise of raw political power. They're not scientists. John Podesta is not a scientist. They're career officials who did the science and data work said they can do it with 3 pads. That's all we're asking for, to approve what they've already said they can do. Not use political power because radical environmental groups are telling them to kill this when it would hurt our country's national security, jobs, energy security, environmental interests, and the great people of our great state. And I'll just make one final point. I was going to say it, but I couldn't help it. The Washington Post just did a big story on this. One of my colleagues in the Senate, Martin Heinrich, has spoken out again against Willow. My point to Martin Heinrich is, Senator Heinrich, butt out. Okay? You're a hypocrite. Butt out. New Mexico has had almost over 50% of all the federal oil and gas leases in the country. They have increased production by 700,000 barrels a day. And now he's telling the White House to not let Alaska produce? Butt out. Take care of your own state. Quit being a hypocrite. I'm next going to call up my friend, Congresswoman Peltola, for her words. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mary Peltola, and it's a real honor to be here today supporting the Willow Project with all of these Alaskans who, like Senator Sullivan said, have traveled thousands of miles to be here. We have a lot of people here who are Inupiaq from the North Slope region. This is their region. This is their land. This is about their sovereignty and their autonomy to go forward with their economic development, which will help the state of Alaska. It will help residents across our state in every school, public safety, public transportation. It will help the nation. And we have many, many supporters from across the Alaska Native community, not just Inupiaqs. I'm Yupik. We have Athabascans in this audience. We have Tlinkits. We have Eaks. Across the board, Alaska Natives are standing in support with Inupiaqs. And no, there is not 100% unanimous support. Across America, there is no issue that has 100% unanimous support. But clearly there is the preponderance of the majority of Inupiaqs who are in support of this, the majority of Alaska Natives, the majority of Alaskans are in support of this. And like Senator Sullivan said earlier and Senator Murkowski, we have labor unions who are solidly in support of this. So I'm very proud to be here. I'm very proud to be an advocate for this. And I too would like to appeal to the administration to recognize the NEPA process and the back and forth that has occurred for a number of years. And also recognize that Alaska, while many other states have enjoyed economic development and economic growth, Alaska has gone backwards by 8% over the last 15 years. We can't afford this. We have to make sure that our future generations have the schools that they need, have the public safety they need, have the roads that they need. And Alaska can't shoulder the issues of global warming alone. I also wanted to share that in the village of Noatak in northern Alaska, right now, today, for unleaded gasoline, they're paying $14.49 a gallon. For stove oil to heat their homes, they're paying $15.31 a gallon. And I don't know how many of you understand. My home heating bill in Bethel is $1,000 a month, and I'm I have one of the lowest bills for home heating in rural Alaska. So, and I pay about $7 a gallon. But to think of paying $15.31 a gallon to heat my home, that is just an exorbitant cost. And households across Alaska cannot shoulder this burden. So I really want to thank you all for being here today and hearing our plea. And next in the lineup is Joelle Hall from the Alaska AFL-CIO. Oyana.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Mary said, my name is Joelle Hall. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of Alaskans. I'm a veteran. I served my country during the Cold War. This all feels vaguely familiar to me. And I also am the president of the Alaska AFL-CIO, representing 55 unions and over 50,000 union workers in the state of Alaska. And Mary was talking about the 100% Club. I'm here to represent the 100% Club. 100% of Alaska's unions are in support of the Willow Project, not just our building trades unions, also our private unions and our public sector unions, because development in Alaska, revenue to Alaska, employs Alaska's workforce, but it also helps support the state workers and the public workers, which are vital to the monitoring of this work and to make sure that this work is done justly. Senator Sullivan is completely right. We have some of the best monitoring and maintenance and supervision of industry in any place in the world. Those are Alaska state employees. This job helps to pay for their wages to make sure they can continue to do the same thing. This is a virtuous cycle that allows workers in Alaska to keep their jobs. And I just want to talk a little bit about the workers in Alaska that are going to build this project. 9 million man hours, 2,500 jobs worked by the toughest humans on the planet. They are going to go to work in the conditions that you can't even begin to fathom. Only Alaskans can do this job. Only Alaskans have done this job, and we will continue to do this job. I am beyond humbled to stand in this crowd today. If you're an Alaskan, you know the people behind me are, it's an amazing constellation of Alaska royalty. I'm thrilled to be here to speak on behalf of our unions and behalf on all of the work that we can do. We also have quite an interesting event happening here. This is management and labor. Alaska Native corporations, all manner of Alaska organizations standing together asking the same question. Put us to work. Put us to work, Mr. President. We want to build this job. We want to build for American security. We want to build American jobs, and we want to build these consoles in the Gulf states, barge them up, and we're going to put Texans to work in the middle of all this too. I'm not even offended by that, even though they're a littler state. It's okay. I don't mind. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming today. On behalf of the Alaska AFL-CIO and our 55,000 members who are looking forward to putting on multiple layers of Carhartts, some bunny boots, some goggles, about 4 hats, and many, many gloves to go to work on Willow. Thank you. Okay. I walked away. I wasn't done. I'd like to introduce Nuguruk Harachuk from Voice of the Arctic.
Thank you. Thank you, Joelle. And thank you to the senators, Representative Peltola, for their leadership, as well as the Alaska delegation, as you've seen, voted unanimously to support the Willow project. My name is Nuguruk Harachuk. I'm the president for the Voice of the Arctic Inupiat. Our organization was set up in 2015 in part to advocate on issues important to Alaska's Inupiat on the North Slope. Willow is one of those issues. Our board voted unanimously, which is made up of 24 member organizations from various organizations on the North Slope, tribes, city governments, regional organizations like the Borough, Arctic Slope Regional Corporation, village corporations. 24 of those organizations on the North Slope voted unanimously to allow me to do everything I can to push this project forward and get it to the finish line in a way that's viable for the company, our industry partners, for the region, and for the state. Majority consensus, again, I'm part of that 100% club that was just mentioned. We're there. A lot of people on the North Slope are as well, and the majority consensus is. One of the other points I'd like to make with regards to it, there's a lot of information out there regarding subsistence activities and how this project is going to negatively impact those activities. We would not, as the subsistence hunters of the North Slope, we would not support a project that threatened our subsistence livelihood in that negative of a fashion. We would not be supportive of that. Our subsistence activities and the resource development are not mutually exclusive, at least not today, and they're not going to be in the future. We utilize the jobs that projects like this are going to provide income for the families on the North Slope. That income turns into equipment, snowmobiles, boats, that Representative Putkuduk mentioned, firearms, all of these things that we need in this more modern age to be able to participate in those subsistence activities. So you can't separate the two. We need the jobs to be able to subsist, and we need the subsistence to be able to continue our way of life that is unique and that we will definitely continue going forward. So with that, we understand the complexities, and we know that the project will make it possible for a community to continue our traditions while reinforcing the economic foundation of our region, of our state, of the nation for decades to come. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Doreen Levitt. She's the Director of Natural Resources for the Inupiat community of the Arctic Slope.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank our senators and representatives for our state who continuously advocate and fight for us every day. My name is Doreen Levitt, and I'm with the Inupiat community of the Arctic Slope. I'm the Natural Resources Director and also serve on the council as Secretary. We are one of 2 federally recognized regional tribes in the United States. Willow has been designed to meet the needs of our Indigenous people. Willow is a well-studied, well-thought-out project. BLM followed a rigorous, years-long planning process, and ICAS served as a consulting agency. That led us, ICAS, as our council. We have 8 tribes, 13 members, and we voted to support onshore, safe oil and gas development, of which the Willow project will do. Our community showed up at every event, public comments, hosted 25 public meetings to date, and we attended most of those. As it is difficult to imagine, we are just a generation removed from first world access to running water and sewers. Stopping Willow means reversing progress for our people. Without the project, and its critical economic benefits, many of our people would be forced to leave the lands that they have inhabited for thousands of years, thereby extinguishing many of the important characteristics of our Inupiaq people. The Biden administration must listen to Alaska's Indigenous voices. This administration also promised to support Indigenous people, and not supporting and passing Willow would not be in support of our Indigenous people. Thank you.